The story begins with the introduction of Yuya as he places himself in front of a bunch of scary-looking men wearing black suits and sunglasses in front of him in the living room of his house. As the men start asking him about his father's whereabouts, it seems that he doesn't have any kind of knowledge of him, and they hand him a letter written by his father to him. It seems that his father had run away, leaving his son all alone, which makes Yuya remember his father's motto. Despite the fact that his father left a huge debt on his shoulders, he gets reminded of the fact that his mother still loves him unconditionally, as she even retained her youthful beauty for him. The whole scenario makes him feel like his mother was blinded by love and thinks of his father as the lowest position a man could ever have. Then when it comes to the debt that his father left on his shoulders, according to the men, it comes to about 30 million, as he kept borrowing money again and again to pay back the money he borrowed. Despite the scary looks contained by the men, Yuya doesn't seem to be scared of the man communicating with him, as he knows Takashi since he was in primary school. Takashi continues to insult Yuya's father for leaving him in such an insulting position, as he feels like he has left his son behind and ran away abroad in the end, which leaves Yuya to deal with all the lawyers until he meets the end of his life. Not only that, but also his father claimed that he and his father left to hit the casinos in Las Vegas, which practically feels like a miracle to Takashi, as despite having such shitty parents, he ended up growing fine as a good person. Then when Takashi thinks about the whole situation, knowing that his boss wouldn't be lying down this time, he would end up having to take him with him. The moment Yuya thinks that he will have to end his life by working as a laborer somewhere. At that moment, Takashi claims that he will persuade the boss to have him work under his wing to protect him. He and his co-worker promise that they will do their best to take care of him so he doesn't end up becoming like them, living his life as a normal high schooler. Suddenly his doorbell rings and a girl named starts the day by greeting him. Yuya feels like he is currently standing in front of a goddess who had flown out from a famous painting to appear in front of him. It seems that he surely knows the girl, and her name is Hirotsuba, as she is quite popular in his school because of being nominated as the prettiest high school girl in Japan. But the only thing that astonishes him is that she isn't supposed to know him in the first place, as they have never communicated with each other, let alone told her about the address of his house. When Yuya starts to blush while looking at her, she starts checking his temperature, acting as if she is quite concerned about his well-being. The moment she starts asking to get into his house, he starts believing that it cannot possibly happen since he has Takashi in the other room. The moment those guys meet eyes with the girl, they start asking for her to leave since it might be bad timing for him, and for some reason Takashi seems to know about her. The moment when Takashi claims that he wants to have a chat with her, Kaede states that she knows about his identity as the lieutenant of the Hiratsu syndicate, which shocks all of them, including Yuya. Yuya assumes that it might be the weirdest thing ever, since she isn't supposed to know about this part of the world. And instead of being concerned about Yuya's attention, Takashi starts asking her about the knowledge she has about them. When Takashi keeps on pressing onto the situation even more while being mocked by Kaede at the same time, she reveals that her name is indeed Hirotsuba Yuichiro. She seems to be related to the chief of the National Police Agency's Investigation Bureau, as he is her uncle. When Takashi continues to ask about her intentions, she answers saying that the amount that Yuya's father owed them is about to be transferred to the syndicate at a later date to them, including interest, so they could lose their grasp on Yuya. When Yuya is already dwelling in his deep thoughts, Hirotsuba's mother enters the scene, introducing herself as a lawyer, which positions Takashi in a rough situation. Takashi starts to find himself in a sticky position and demands to ask her what she is about to do in the situation, which creates an even more rough situation for the mother and daughter duo. According to her mother, Yuya's father's debt will not be burdening him in the first place, making Takashi clear that he will never lay a hand on Yuya, which is his first promise to them. He starts to dwell in deep thoughts, as Yuya could never believe what the contents of the envelope would be carrying, which ended up clearing his huge debt all of a sudden. When Takashi confirms the whole situation to be ended, Hirotsuba ends up holding her hand, insisting that he should be relaxing as it is about to be fine soon enough. Then when it comes to Takashi leaving the house, Hirotsuba's mother insists him to have some tea, but he ends up leaving with his mates, claiming that he and Yuya will never be meeting ever again in his life. As everyone leaves, Yuya finally notices that Hirotsuba was quite scared of Takashi in the first place, as she continues to shake on her own, and he holds her hand to calm her down. As Hirotsuba gets prepared to elaborate on the whole situation to him, and according to her, the condition that fulfilled the debt for him was that he will have to live with her from then on, which feels like a weird joke to him. As they end up sitting inside the living room, Hirotsuba calmly states that from now on, Yuya is nothing but her property, while smiling in front of him, revealing the condition to him. When Yuya doesn't seem to understand the situation at all, he demands to ask her what she really meant by him turning into her property in the first place. The whole thing then makes Hirotsuba remark that he will be acting as her pet from now on, which ends up making him root for himself instead of being mad at her, as he believes that she must be in her thoughts and fantasy after all. As the situation calms down, she reveals that Yuya's father came to her mother begging in tears, and until a month ago, when his father suddenly contacted her, all he could say was "help me" on the phone. It seems that Hirotsuba's mother held his mother accountable as she continued to cheer him in every way, and the whole thing makes Yuya feel like his father must have been insane, feeling like he would end up beating him until he is satisfied. While Yuya is engulfed in anger and agony, Hirotsuba claims that all his father could say in the end was to request for them to leave his son from the situation, as he surely doesn't want to ruin his son's future while crying in tears. But the situation is still blurry to her mother, as she surely doesn't know Yuya at all. And then Hirotsuba adds that the main reason she had to accept the whole thing is because Hirotsuba simply selfishly asked for it to happen. According to Hirotsuba, she had been obedient her whole life and never asked for anything selfishly for her own. And the moment her family knew that she wanted something for her own, they agreed instantly. It seems that the reasons were that Yuya surely didn't have to do anything in this matter. And another reason is that she surely wants to start living with him, which gets the whole situation even more sticky for him, as he doesn't understand the depth of it. Hirotsuba ends up claiming that she wants to be with him for unfair reasons, and she hands Yuya over a written pledge to her which he would have to sign to her to make sure that the contract stands. It doesn't only stand between them living together, as the story for Hirotsuba is about to end with both of them being graduated and getting married together so he can be adopted into her own family. He couldn't even imagine how his parents ended up approving it, as the whole thing feels like nothing more than a fever dream to him. Then when he is flabbergasted in the worst way possible, she suggests that he shouldn't be worrying much, as she intends on providing for him, and since she has a good heart, he will continue to feel bad for her taking care of him. If that happens, it seems that Yuya will start working beside her father so that eventually he can become the company president of the Hirotsuba Group, which is the main thing they agreed on in the first place. As Yuya couldn't help but wonder what is even happening with her parents and herself, he thinks that his head is about to be blown up on his own, holding all this information to himself. To make a concrete statement in the end, Hirotsuba elaborates that he doesn't have any kind of way to reject the idea of it, as both of his parents have given their approval, since he can start expecting the worst. Yuya thinks that he might have a general idea of what will happen, as he will be working like a slave as an employee of the Hirotsuba company. But to contradict all of his thoughts, she remarks that if he ends up refusing the offer, he will continue to be her butler for the rest of his life, and adds that if he ends up being her butler, he will never have the chance of doing anything naughty with her while puffing her chest in front of him. The words coming out of her mouth start making him feel like he is living in a different kind of hell right now, as he can tell that she is forcing herself to make her say these things. Moreover, having the kind of relationship with her while acting as her personal butler doesn't seem too bad for him, but she wouldn't ever accept the idea to begin with. As she ends up stating that pure love would be way better for them, as he would want to profess his love proudly to her while acting all cute in front of her. When he compares the face she shows to the world and her current state, he thinks that he will be one of the few boys who know the true face of Hirotsuba Kaede, and ends up claiming that he will be accepting the negotiation on his behalf. He adds that since it wasn't his place to refuse her in the first place, so he would avoid that, and clears up the fact by saying that he will get to live with her and marry her for real. Then when Yuya states that the whole thing must be amazing for him in the end, Hirotsuba starts up almost instantly asking what is wrong with him, and he doesn't understand her reason to ask him something like that all of a sudden. When he awkwardly asks her nothing must be wrong with him, she asks him back then why he would be crying on his own then. Yuya doesn't seem to understand that even though he might be freed from his parents, his tears aren't stopping in any way, as he feels like his chest is about to burst open for real. At that moment, Hirotsuba ends up embracing him all the way, claiming that it will be alright since she will be with him right now until the end. The moment he loses her embrace, Yuya starts embracing her on his own, which makes Hirotsuba state that even if he is suddenly all alone, it is obvious that he will be feeling lonely, but from now on, he can continue to be happy. Later, Hirotsuba suggests he should start packing once he manages to settle down with his decision, as they will start demolishing his house almost immediately. The whole idea of demolishing the house feels insane to him, as he had never thought that the whole house of his would be gone all of a sudden. To add more information to the matter, Hirotsuba claims that the whole plot will be cleared to have a house to be rebuilt and rented out, so the whole thing would act as some kind of income from the rent that they will be getting. As Yuya starts to cry on his own, she suggests that their love nest has already been prepared, and it is better for them that they have the day off the next day so they can go on to do some shopping for them. The whole thing doesn't make any sense to Yuya at all, as he thinks that his head is about to go blank, and ends up accepting the fact in the end, as he thinks that his hopeless father's blood is flowing inside him as well, since he might have made a life-changing decision on the spur of the moment instead of judging it with a clear and content mind, which would end up getting him to regret in the end. The scene shifts to Hirotsuba Electrical Appliances' main tower, as this year is supposed to be the 100th anniversary of the electrical manufacturing that Japan boasts to the world. It seems that Hitotsuba's father is the fourth generation to lead the company, as it might be an old-fashioned hereditary system, but he thinks that they should be piercing through the stereotype with effort. For that reason, Hitotsuba thinks that Yuya should be following his footsteps, and he should be prepared to deal with it, and it feels quite like a death sentence to Yuya for some reason. He knows that he will need to be the sharpest tool in the shed to do that, as he will be required to deal with tens of thousands of workers every day to live up to their expectations. Then when it comes to the selection of universities, Hitotsuba prefers that he will be attending one of the private universities, as he won't be able to waste his time by working part-time or some other circle, while he could be learning things from his father at that time. Also, she insists that he needs to be wasting time on her instead of following the others, and she states that no matter how weird his fetishes might be, she will be meeting his expectations in any way possible to make him understand her value. Yuya claims that he fully understands her claims and starts asking why she would be helping him, as they didn't even really know each other in the first place despite studying in the same school. She then claims that even though they didn't really talk before, she had been watching him after school soccer club practice this whole time. Soccer is the only thing that Yuya continued to follow through from childhood till now, and it seems that on a certain day in the summer, everyone may have returned home at that time because of the scorching heat. Yuya continued to practice at that time despite thinking about his well-being. The look that he had on his face that day, persistently kicking at the ball while having the roughest expression wearing on his face, which didn't used to show often, that of desperation. From that moment, Hitotsuba thought that Yuya was a whole different person from her, as he was someone who would put his heart into something and give it his all in it to make the best of it. Before she even knew anything, he ended up stealing her heart at that moment without even intending to do so. She continued to root for him while praying for his hard work to be rewarded, but that didn't end up meeting her request, as his hard work wasn't rewarded to him in the end. Despite wishing that Yuya's team would be going to the finals, all of them were eliminated in the third round of the district tournament, but that alone didn't make him lose hope. Yuya continues to practice all alone, even though she thought that he would be resting for a while or stop practicing all alone. That act alone made Yuya paint in her heart as an amazing person, as if her heart became glued to him. Then Yuya thinks that it must not be the case, as he might not be the person she thinks that he is. And according to Hitotsuba, no matter what he says, she has already fallen in love with how he ended up putting his heart into doing the things that he wants to do. She also adds that she will be taking any kind of measures to make him her, so no one else is able to notice his charm and take him away from her. This whole time, Yuya couldn't help but wonder how someone like her, being the cutest girl in Japan, ended up being charmed by him kicking a ball like an idiot every day, while he didn't even know anything about her. But still then, Yuya claims that he understands her feelings for receiving such a proposal from a girl like her. Still, he doesn't know much about her, and for that reason, he decides not to respond to her feelings for now. At that moment, Hitotsuba states that the whole situation is fine for her. The response that he gave her already made her feelings grow for him even more. While Yuya contemplates the situation on his own, Hitotsuba continues to dream that one day she will be making him hers, and will be having him kiss her for the first time, with the hopes of immediately pinning him down. Yuya thinks to himself that the whole day has been ruined for him, as the picture that he had inside in his mind of Hitotsuba Kaede has already been ruined. According to Hitotsuba, everyone wears a mask on them, and that fact applies to him as well. So when she ends up asking Yuya about her true self, Yuya claims that he doesn't have much information on her in the first place and thinks that it will be better for him if they get to know each other gradually. Then when Hitotsuba is about to say more about her future plannings, Yuya holds his hand on her mouth to make her stop, as he wasn't able to take more of her absurd thinking. Then Hitotsuba requests him to start packing, and when Yuya asks where they are about to move, Hitotsuba claims that they are about to head into their love nest. They are about to live together from now on. When it gets 9 p.m. at night, the luxury imported car arrives for them to take them into their new house, and Yuya thinks that Hitotsuba is the culprit of this whole scenario. But despite his weird feelings and thoughts, he thinks that Hitotsuba has changed from her previous self, as she looks quite dignified and beautiful, that she cannot help but admire it in the first place, being too embarrassed to even elaborate on it. Then as he thinks of breaking the ice between them, he ends up asking her where the car is taking them, as he doesn't even know the location they are heading to. But instead of answering to his question directly, she states the same thing as before by adding that he shouldn't be worrying, as they are about to get the best rooms in the whole house, which will be taken care of by her father himself. Yuya enlightens her, saying that the matter isn't like he doesn't trust her, but he asks her if she was about to say that the whole thing was a drama created by her. Then Yuya notices that they are already in the popular Bay Area, which is filled with many new condos, basically like first-class hotels, which should be way beyond out of place for high schoolers like them for sure. Then Hitotsuba happily claims that he is indeed right and praises him for being so well informed. But all these things are known by Yuya since his father was the one who used to digest all the trendy information on the television in the first place. As Yuya dives into deep thoughts of his own, Hitotsuba states that if he can do that much in this point of his life, he will be doing truly well under her father's wings, since she believes in him. As Yuya keeps on blushing on his own, they finally arrive at their new home, which is one of the most luxurious condos he was talking about just a minute ago in the car. He thinks that there is no way he would be living in this place with Hitotsuba, and Hitotsuba makes it clear that their place is on the top floor, so they should be heading in already. Even before he could say anything, she grabbed his arm to herself and got into the elevator, and he is trying his best not to faint because of the confusing situation. As the elevator continues to climb up, he continues to look nervously all over the place so the time passes. As the elevator stops and releases the door, Yuya looks at the place only to see a full-furnished luxurious place full of expensive things which feels like a dream to him. When Hitotsuba asks if he truly likes the place, Yuya is quite shocked to ask her if they are truly about to live in this place, which is quite unbelievable for him as he doesn't come from a wealthy family. According to her, this is truly the reality, and when it comes to cooking, Hitotsuba states that she is quite good at that too, so she will be cooking for him no matter what he wants to eat. The whole conversation makes Yuya remark inside his own mind that it doesn't matter since he can cook as well, so they can be taking turns or maybe have a roster system in the first place. But it isn't his concern at this moment. He notices that the whole room is quite larger than what he expected it to be, as the living and dining rooms are almost the size of 30 tatami flats, as most of the furniture inside the house has a calming design on them, with a large TV on the wall. Not only that, but also there is also an elegant and glittering night view of the bay from the large windows, which can let them have a passionate moment with each other. Realizing that he is thinking quite too far for this time, he starts to hold his thoughts for a moment, which gets noticed by Hitotsuba. When she asks him about it, he starts to react ironically, claiming that he is totally okay and wasn't having any kind of weird thoughts about them together, which just ends up making Hitotsuba smile on her own. Hitotsuba remarks that he is quite a strange person, but she likes that he is trying his best to act like a gentleman, which she loves so much. When they finish conversing with each other, Hitotsuba thinks of having their dinner, and at that moment the doorbell rings and Yoshizumi leaves their baggage on the door while leaving their pizza for them to have dinner. Also, when the driver named Miyamoto gets inside the house, Hitotsuba offers the man to have dinner with them, since he must not have ate, but he rejects the idea, politely claiming that his work has already ended, so he shouldn't be disturbing them. As the man begins to leave, Yuya realizes that the man must be truly an elderly gentleman, which is added to the information given by Hitotsuba, who claims that he had been working for them since her grandfather's time. As they prepare to have their dinner, Yuya notices that Cokes came with the dinner, and Hitotsuba remarks that he must know one more thing about her now. Yuya adds that she is not much different than the regular high school girls, which makes Hitotsuba hope that they will be getting along just fine. Then when Yuya gets on to open his Coke can, he ends up splashing the whole thing on his face, making him realize that Hitotsuba is nothing less than a prankster despite her appearance. Hey, Manga Akita is here. I hope you enjoyed this story and want to see the next part. In that case, write in the comments the secret word, love. That way I'll know you've watched this video to the end. That's all for now. See you later, and bye-bye.